Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad that we can be together today. Thank you. Let's offer a prayer, and then I'll say a little bit about our program today and give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves. But let's begin with a prayer. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, you have called us to be people of welcome and love. Thank you for St. Paul's Church, for the Episcopal Church, and for the gift of the Christian faith by which we know that all people belong to you, are blessed, are welcomed, and are included. Thank you especially for the witness of the queer community here at St. Paul's, for the partnerships and relationships that you have helped us form throughout this community. Help our conversation today be a source of encouragement and hope, especially for those who need to hear it, and for us, an encouragement and a reminder of your sacred call. All this I pray through Christ our Savior. Amen. Raise your hand if you were in any way involved with a Pride celebration, either Friday or Saturday. A lot of us were. It was wonderful. It was wonderful, and I'm so glad that St. Paul's can be a part of that, and grateful that it's possible for us to take part and to participate. What a treat we have today. We've got a panel of guests who are here to talk to us a little bit about their faith journey, and in particular, what the church, the Episcopal Church, and perhaps St. Paul's in particular, have meant to them. I trust that that will not only be informative for us as we get to know them, but even more so as we think about who we are as a part of this family. Let me invite each of our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us their name, and tell us about how long you've been affiliated with the Episcopal Church. And if you're willing, tell us who it was or how it was that you came to know about the Episcopal Church. So, thank you.
Morning. Thank you. My name is Father Kathy Corbett Welch. I am originally from Boston, as you will tell as soon as I say two sentences. I'll tell you the rest later.
I'm Brandy Scholl, and let's see, I've been here for a little over 2 years, I think. Yeah, this is my second year.
I'm Sierra Coleman. I've been here for about a year and a half. I was introduced to the Episcopal Church through my fiance, Taylor.
And I'm Taylor Allen. I have been here for a year and a half since moving to Northwest Arkansas, but have been involved with the Episcopal Church since 2019, off and on.
Thank you. We don't have to go in order, but we can go in order. I'll let y'all decide who wants to share what. But I'm curious, help us get to know you and how God has helped you know what your gifts are, and that your gifts are to be shared in this community, not just this parish, but the Episcopal Church and the wider community. What are the gifts that you feel like God has helped you identify within yourself, and how is God calling you to share them with the community? Have you experienced perhaps the joy or maybe the challenge of being called to share those gifts with the community?
When I was in seminary, I had to preach at a church for the first time, and I had never preached before. And after my sermon, this dear lady of 92 years old came up to me and she said, "You know, if you don't make it as a priest, you'd be a great stand-up comedian." So that's one of my gifts, I think. I'm a person who's very accessible. Anybody can talk to me about anything, and I'm open to the experience of all people. And I think I reflect that in who I am. Even when I'm not wearing a collar, people are comfortable talking to me. And I think that's an enormous gift for a priest, particularly, but also being a lesbian, it also is very helpful because people are not afraid to ask me about being gay. And I have no qualms about talking about it, and even if people are saying, well, you're going to go to hell, it's like, well, your God and my God are two different gods, I guess. But You know, I'm willing to talk to anybody about anything, and I think that's a great gift as a priest. It's a great gift as a preacher, and just as a person.
Gifts. Well, I've always been told I have the actual gift of like discernment. So I think discerning like who people are has been really important in my life. And it didn't matter what you did, like your identity. It was, you're a person to me. And getting to know that person was important. The rest of it didn't matter, right? We're all people. So that's kind of what I've used my gifts for, is just really acceptance. I was raised to not judge people, because we never know what people are going through. And so just that acceptance of people and where they are, meeting them where they are at that moment, I feel is something that I can contribute to people.
I was raised in the Baptist church, and so something we really focused on were spiritual gifts. The one that I identified early on was service. I really enjoy taking time to help people in any way I can. I'm part of several volunteer organizations in Northwest Arkansas, but I would say my favorite work is I help law students as they go through their journey through law school and through their first years in practice. I have the opportunity to help them grow and develop and really get a flair for service themselves, to do pro bono work. I traditionally work with LGBT law students as they navigate through the halls of Nebraska law or Arkansas law, and really meet the challenges that come from being in a very conservative, male-dominated field, to really get through some of the concerns they have and grow as lawyers and as members of the community.
I think the Lord gave me the gift of late night conversations. And I say that because where I've seen the Lord's hand the most on my life is when you're out and it's at 11 o'clock or later and you're meeting somebody strange and random just on the streets, and they have a story that they want to share. And the amount of times that I've been blessed enough to come into a stranger's life for just a few hours and hear them out and try to give a little bit of comfort to them when in this moment of vulnerability, when you know you're never going to see each other again, but you just have something on your chest that you need to get off of it. I've been really blessed that I've been in that position a more than coincidental amount of times through my life, and sometimes those have gone on to become friendships if I have them with classmates or workmates, but most often than not, I've just been really lucky to be a small part of somebody's journey and to be able to give them a little bit of comfort along the way.
Thank you. What's something that you find particularly hopeful about the Episcopal Church or about St. Paul's in particular?
I'll take that. I think there's only one other community I lived in, the Church of St. John in Boston, that was as loving, as caring, as open, as willing to accept, and as joyful as the community at St. Paul's. I think we gravitated to St. Paul's because it's just like St. John's in Boston. And it's a great gift to the community. I think yesterday was a great example of what a gift to the community it was. I have to say, Justin, Jason, and Rebecca, let's have a hand for those three. Because they embodied the spirit of the day, and they guided us, all of us who had volunteered yesterday, they guided us through that and kept our spirits going. And I think if St. John's is now closed, I think if St. John's had stayed open, it would have done exactly what we did. We had the first priests two priests, our rectors, walk in the Gay Pride Parade in Boston in 1987. 1987, they were the first two clergy to walk in a Gay Pride Parade in the city of Boston, and they wore their collars. And people came up to them on the street crying, giving them hugs, asking for blessings, saying they had never seen anything like this in their lives. And so it was a great witness to the city. And I think our priests who walked yesterday were a great witness to our city to show that this is a place that you can come and be welcome and not be afraid.
So I did grow up in the church, and I was going to a church before I came here, and I have two brothers who are both gay. And one of my brothers challenged me to find somewhere that was inclusive because the church I was going to just wasn't. It was great. I loved it, but it just wasn't inclusive, and it made him feel like I wasn't living my true, authentic self because I wasn't around people that had the same beliefs and the same just strong, like, this is truth to me. And what gave me hope is I looked around because it was important to me to have a spiritual family. That has been important to me for many, many years. It has literally saved my life a couple of years. And so I needed to have a spiritual family. So I came here, and what gave me hope that day was that I had found my place. Was when they had announced in church that Sunday, that first Sunday I was here, that Wednesday night they were going to be meeting to decorate the float to be in the Pride Parade. And that was just like this, I don't know, this hope, this signal that I was in my place. This was my home. These were my people. And it just gave me a lot of hope that I can live in an area where it's authentic, and that if I invited my brothers, they would be welcome. If I invited my transgender best friend, he would be welcome. Like, there was not a question about that, and all is welcome. And that was just a really peaceful feeling. And so that gave me a lot of hope. And then just being involved last year and this year in the Pride really showed me the spirit of people, and everyone was so gracious and so friendly. And when they would leave here, they would be thankful, and they would be thanking me and the rest of the volunteers for our work. And it was very hopeful that we can include everyone and that they feel safe so that they can know Jesus.
I will cry if I answer this question, so I'm going to pass it on to Taylor.
I think what makes me the most hopeful about St. Paul's can be summed up in an exchange that I overheard yesterday, which was while the lunch was getting set up inside, there was a table with a group of teenagers, and they were all dolled up for Pride. They had on the tights and the glitter and the rainbows, but one of them said, "Oh, I brought you here because last year I saw they were doing this, and so this year I wanted to bring you all here." They didn't say you all, but I brought you all here because they had food last year, and I was so glad to see they were doing it again. I'm going to start every parade down here instead of up at the other end. And, that just touched my heart, because I think that is the type of work that I value so much about St. Paul's, is the idea that people who are out in the community, who are not necessarily a part of our faith home, but they still find, we can serve them, and they can find a place here as a place to find something to eat, to find support, to find an open door. And even if it's just for one day out of the year, it matters a lot to me that St. Paul's is dedicated to doing that work and to being a source of that in a community, especially one that has historically been so wary about entering places of faith.
Thank you. If you think of it, if you will, think of it as a strength, if not perhaps even as a superpower. But how has being queer enabled you to see something about God or to tell something about God that you perhaps otherwise might not have been able to recognize or to share?
Again, coming from the Baptist church, I know I've mentioned this before, but I always heard, God is love, the term agape. It's something that's very well spoken about there, but it's not something that I truly understood how they could think that, given, how they believed. And so coming into the Episcopal Church, especially as I was just learning about myself and my sexuality, kind of all at the same time, it really shook me to think of just how deep that love is. And I really wouldn't have had that perspective if I hadn't come from some place where, it was very frowned upon to be gay, and to come into God's love in a very true and deep sense here at St. Paul's and just in general, being able to realize how deep that love is and how much it applies to everybody. So I guess that would be my response, just how deep the love is from Christ.
What being queer and being Christian, sometimes at different points, it's only very recently in my life that those two things have coexisted. But it's taught me how hurt and love can live together, and what a balm forgiveness is for the soul and for everyone who is touched by it. And I've learned that through the number of people who have had strained relationships with me at times because of my sexuality, and then learning to still love them in spite of knowing that that was their belief about me, and being surprised by when those bridges started to heal, when we came back together, sometimes with an apology from them, and sometimes just with a conciliatory, love the sinner, hate the sin type of approach. But being surprised in myself about the ability to forgive and to still love somebody who you know is wrong or you feel is wrong, but say, I still love you as a person, you're still important to me, and though you've hurt me, I'm not going to hold that against you. That has given me just a fragment of understanding of what we talk about when we preach about the importance of forgiveness and love and how to walk through life, as we say in the Lord's Prayer, is with the forgiveness of sins. And I'm really blessed and lucky to be able to see a portion of God's work in that in my own life.
I knew I was a lesbian when I was 11 years old. And I was pretty much out my whole life except to my parents. I didn't tell them until I was in my 20s because I thought they'd be old enough by then to understand. So, and the other thing about me as a child was that I was very spiritual. I was raised in the Roman Catholic Church. I went to Mass every day during Lent. I went to all the First Friday services. I was very involved in the church. So I never had to really decide what God was, because I always knew that God was on my side and that I was very special because God created me this way. I was different from all my friends, and I knew this difference was a blessing from God. I never looked at my life as a lesbian and said, what a terrible curse this has been. It's always been a joy to me. And I've always shared it with everyone that I love. And my two grandmothers found out at the same time. And one grandmother was upset more that I had become an Anglican than I had been a lesbian. That was my Irish grandmother. And my other grandmother said, when my parents told them I was gay, my grandmother said, yes, she's always been a very happy child. So that went over well. But being a lesbian has always been my superpower. And it is because I know that God created me this way, and that was a very special gift that God gave me, that God didn't give everyone. And so I live every day as if my life is a gift, and my life as a lesbian makes it even more special.
Thank you. If you've come in recently, let me remind you that we are here with a panel of individuals who are willing to share a bit of their story. Father Kathy, Brandy, Sierra, and Taylor are here. I've got a couple more questions for them. As an encouragement for us, if you could now tell your younger self something, a word of hope or a word of encouragement, what would you say to your younger self if you could?
Don't change a thing.
I think looking back, I would change my reactions to when my brother told me he was gay. I have two brothers, and my reaction was fine. Honestly, he had been like isolating from the family, and so we actually thought there was something seriously wrong, like cancer, or he was dying, or he was very sick. And so one day when he asked me to meet him at the park, my mom and my sister and my other brother was like, okay, this is it. He's finally going to tell us, because we're all very close. And him not being with us was hard. And he said, I met someone, and his name is James. And I said, okay. And he's like, I wanted to talk to you first because I wanted a gateway to mom, right? Because it was going to be very difficult. And this was many years ago. Like, I'm 51, he's 3 years younger than me. So, he was probably in his early 20s, I'd say. So this was many years ago. The attitudes were a lot different then. And my mom cried a lot. I mean, we were accepting, right? Like, it was like, this is my brother. I love him no matter what. This is my son. I love him no matter what. But there was this question in our mind, because I helped kind of raise my siblings, and it was always, what did I do wrong, right? Like, we thought, what did I do wrong? And that was, at that time, not even something we should have questioned. And it made us feel bad, and it kind of made them feel bad, because my mom is the five of us are just close. Like, she taught us to be, she's the one that taught us to always be kind. That was her number one thing. Always be kind to others, no matter what. And so I wish, if I were to go back to those times, to be able to tell my mom, it's okay. Like, my brother is still with his partner, James. It's probably been 25 years now, and then when my other brother came out, he came out to my sister, again, as a gateway to mom. And I just wish it would have been different for them. Because, again, it was, what did I do wrong? All this stuff. And it makes me kind of sad sometimes to think about it now. My brothers understood. And my one brother was like, I understand if you, I just need to tell you, because I can't stand being away from you guys anymore. Like it's been hard for me to not be around, but I couldn't be around knowing that this was happening. And so it was very brave of him to come forward and take that chance, even though he knew we would be accepting. And so I wish that that was different for them. And my mom was always, I mean, honestly, guys, like, they would bring other people home from college for the holidays because their parents had ostracized them. And my mom would hug them, right? Like, she would meet them and hug them and be very welcoming. And they would cry because they hadn't had a mom hug them in so long. And that, to me, was heartbreaking because no matter what, we all knew we had each other. So...
Glad to hear that the coming out to your sibling, to get to mom, is a universal experience. This is why the queer community is so important. We learn new things. I would spoiler to my younger self and tell her that she was gay. That would be very helpful to her. And then I would tell her that you don't have to perform for anybody. To just be herself, to embrace who she is. And that there's no need to try to impress anybody or to try to fit into a certain mold. It's so important to give yourself space to spread your wings. And I really didn't give myself that space until recently. So it's your fault. But that would be what I would tell my younger self.
I would tell my younger self that you're going to be scared, but you're going to do it anyway. It's okay to be scared because you're going to do it anyway. That the 14-year-old me who felt like God and the church had put distance between us, so I put distance between me and them, that I would grow into somebody who never quite, you know, that you're always the person in some way that you were when you were a teenager, just as, because it's a continuous line. And I would tell her that even with all the fear that's in your heart, you're going to go somewhere and you're going to know love and know acceptance. And if you push through, it doesn't mean that the hurt is not there, but it means you gain access to something that is bigger than just you and how healing that's going to be. And I would say the hurt and the fear is going to be there, but you're going to grow past it, and you can grow past it. There are things waiting for you on the other side that you think right now have been closed off to you forever, and you're going to make it out okay.
Thank you. What would you all want others to know about our church? In particular, if they are a person who's seeking to be closer to God, seeking an authentic experience of faith. What would you hope others would know about our church, whether it's St. Paul's or the wider church?
I would want them to know that the love is unconditional. That they're going to come to this church and they're going to be part of a community. I told you I'd cry. It's okay, baby. Let you take back over.
Okay. I would let them know that uncertainty and doubt are part of a faith process, and that you don't have to walk in perfectly knowing your place in the church or with God, that if you're just curious about it, if you don't know what you think about it, that you are still welcome here. It is not just a place at the table for the true believers. It is a place for everybody with a variety of experiences, and the church wants you, even if you don't know yet why you want the church.
I would say find someone and just talk to them. Just sit down and have a conversation so that you can start learning about the acceptance for yourself. Because I can tell them that they're accepted, but they need to have those experiences. And I would just say, come, let's go talk about it. let's see, I want to tell you about this place, or I want to tell you about other places you could go in your area if you wanted to. But to definitely not isolate, to know that they can be accepted, even though if they've never felt that way, that it's actually possible for them.
Yesterday, I sat for most of the day outside under a tree. As people passed by, I said, "Come on in, we have water, we have bathrooms, we have food," and invited everybody in. And sometimes I wish I could sit out in front of the church on Sunday with the same chair and say, come on in, everybody's welcome. Jesus is waiting. Come in, come in. And I think that would be, it'd be a great witness to the church, and it would be a great witness to people to say, we really mean it. And people were looking at me yesterday and said, "You really have bathrooms?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean it. We have bathrooms open, and go ahead." And it would be the same experience. Come on in. Jesus is waiting for you. We're always open. We're always welcoming to everyone.
Thank you. That's a helpful transition. I think St. Paul's participation in Pride is, of course, first and foremost about celebrating Pride and what it means to welcome and to insist on a safe and inclusive community for members of the queer community. But I also think it's a chance for us to be who we are at our best. I've noticed over the last several years that our involvement in Pride has grown and changed. A few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we happened to open our restrooms to people who were lining up for the parade who just needed a place to pee. And last year, with the vision of some volunteers at St. Paul's, we decided to do more than that, to offer water, to offer food, to offer a picnic and a celebration. So it's been interesting to me how St. Paul's presence in Pride has grown from showing up, but now welcoming and offering, kind of getting in touch with who we are. As you think about next year's Pride, as you think about the future of St. Paul's engagement with, involvement with, support of the queer community, what are you hopeful for? What do you hope St. Paul's will do next year or in the years ahead, both for Pride and for the wider celebration of the queer community?
I think what St. Paul's does is just perfect. I can't imagine doing any more. The only thing I would add that we didn't really do yesterday was, and we had decided this consciously, not to evangelize, but to really put out there that we're here on Sundays too. And that just to give people a sense that this is not just a place where you can come in and eat and take a rest, but that you can come to church here and you'd be welcome. There were 2 women who came in yesterday, and they were all dressed up in rainbow flags and big wigs and the whole bit. And as they were going, they said, "This seems like a nice place." I said, "You should come back on Sunday." And they said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yeah, and come as you are." I said, "People would love to see your outfit." And they were a little bit taken aback, and one woman said, "Okay, we'll come back tomorrow." So I think to evangelize is also important. I mean, having the priests there in our collars was very helpful. People saw this as a church, but I think I would like to see it more advertised as a welcoming, worshiping space.
I was going to say I thought it went really well, and that we have a great template for next year, and we can add to that. And I haven't thought about what you said, Father Kathy. That's true. Like somehow not making people uncomfortable, not pushing it at all, but this is more than just a place for the bathroom and to eat on one day. Like, we're offering that as a service. We wanted to have like huge hospitality this year, and I felt like we met that goal. But letting people know also in ways that could be non-intrusive, like come back tomorrow if you're here for the weekend because You came in for Pride, come back tomorrow on your way home. Something to that nature, so that people will know that they're welcome just as they are. Like, however, we saw people dressed really great yesterday. It was fun. But they could also walk in our church the same way, and we would be welcoming.
I think what St. Paul's does is a beautiful testimony. I think the thing that I would just see changed, Jason and Justin, we can't say enough about how great you two were. But I think the thing that I would just love to see grow and change is our visibility. I think we do a great job of, we have these beautiful signs, we have these, rainbow flags up and down our fences, but I would love to see us go out into the crowds to actually deliver some of the water and food, and just get a testimony out that our doors are open. And I think that shows that our doors will be open all the time, but especially to those who are lined up on this side where there is nobody to open their doors to them, to tell them to come to our side.
If I could wave a wand and have one thing change, it would be that we would have some way to show them the way that I, as a lesbian, was made to feel welcome at St. Paul's, not because of a Pride event, but if I could have some way to distill down the experience of an out-of-towner who just Googled St. Paul's and showed up on a random Sunday and heard a sermon actually by you, that it was a Lenten sermon, and I forget the overall message, but one of the things you touched on was that in periods of sacrifice and distance, that some people have already felt themselves estranged from the Lord, and that not everybody experiences periods of solitude the same, because we all have different experiences. My biggest wish would be to show people in the wider community that St. Paul's experiences faith fundamentally through an attitude of acceptance and love, that is intrinsic to our church, that it is not just something that we put on because we want to open our doors, but it is something that we practice in the closed doors of our heart as well. And if there was a way that we could be more open about that or get that out there, I think that would build a lot of bridges.
Thank you. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked, or anything that you just like to tell us? Something that you want to celebrate, something that you want to let us hear? Please share it.
Can I pass this in?
Yeah, let's pass it down there.
Yeah, I have something I want to share and celebrate. I am faithful, I am happy, and I am committed to the life as a priest and to St. Paul's, but all the reasons I do that is because I have a partner, a spouse of 52 years, who has stood by me through everything. And I don't think, without Ellen in my life, I don't think I could have done half the things in my life I could. When I came home one night after being a nurse for 20 years and said to her, I think I'm going to be a priest, she was a little shocked, to say the least, but she supported me through it, and she's been my strongest support ever since then. And so I can't say enough about the woman who has cared for me and loved me for 52 years.
I would like to celebrate or just say how much I appreciate being involved in the queer community as an ally. I mean, when I saw that it was going to be formed, I was like, I want to be involved in that. But there's also this, I'm married to a man. Like, there was that kind of, it was like the reverse, right? Like, am I going to be accepted? Like, is this going to be okay? Because I really want to be involved, because it's such an important part of my journey and my history and why I was here, right? Like, this is why I was even here, because that first Sunday they announced that they were going to be, in the Pride Parade. And I have been very thankful that I have been accepted as I am, and warts and all, right? Like, no one's perfect, but I have been accepted as someone who's genuine, and that hasn't been questioned. It's not a question of, oh, this person is just trying to get into our community. It was okay, come on in. And I have felt the friendship and the community that I've really needed in my life, and I do appreciate it so much.
And we're thrilled to have you. But we're thrilled for all of our allies. It meant so much to me yesterday to see the turnout of the church. It really was a testimony to how much you embrace everybody and want to support all those who enter into these doors. And so I know we had everybody raise their hands, but I would like to give a round of applause for the volunteers.
If I were going to share anything, it would be the difference that it has made as a newcomer in this community and at Northwest Arkansas community, not just this church, but when all of you reach out to somebody who might be new, who you haven't seen before, and you say, welcome, welcome, hello, this is my name, please come on in. And that stretches back from when I first came here to this morning with people who I hadn't met before. It matters when there's that attitude of welcoming and an attitude of wanting to get to know you just as a person, and when that doesn't shy away from, a person on their own or a person who's sitting with their fiance. And that I really appreciate the work that we all do to show up for the love of Christ on an individual level, even when it just comes down to greeting someone with a smile. It makes a difference.
Thank you. If you are interested in being a part of the queer community at St. Paul's, they meet regularly. Although the month of June, Pride Month, is a month where there's a lot of activity. It's not the only time that group meets to support each other, to seek ways to be faithful to God, and to help the rest of the church be faithful to God by supporting that fundamental principle of unconditional love and inclusion. If you'd like to know more about that, of course, you can ask any of our panelists, but also Jason and Justin Sneed or any other members of that community. And I hope you'll consider being a part of that. It's really good to be a part of a community like St. Paul's that believes that pride is not just something that we do once a month when we change our logo and celebrate rainbows, but actually it reflects a fundamental identity of who we are, and y'all help us see that and hear that, and that's really encouraging, and I'm really grateful.
I just have one more person that I wanted to acknowledge, and I think at St. Paul's we're very blessed to have the clergy that we have who are so supportive and are with us in every step of our way and every step of the way of every one of us. But there are a lot of churches out there who have rectors who would not have their church involved in gay pride because they would be afraid to offend someone. And we have, our two priests were out there all day yesterday greeting people and showing people that this is a community that loves and cares. And so I think we deserve a round of applause for our rector and for Mother Sarah, who's not here with us right now.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. It is good that we are able to be together. Let's finally, Pride is a wonderful chance to applaud and just celebrate. Let's say thank you to our panelists for sharing with us today. Thank you all so much.